journeys. He had 4 missionary journeys. Finally, he reached to Rome. We talked about that. And also, we look at the early Christian theologian who is Augustine of Hippo. Actually, Hippo is the name of the city in Algeria. So today, we also like to look at some of the most important, significant, who give us significant impact of development of Christian religion, who is Martin Luther. Martin Luther is theologian, priest, and then professor of theology. He played a significant role in Protestant Reformation. He became disillusioned, kind of disappointed with the practice of Catholic Church at that time. 16th centuries, 15th centuries, 16th centuries. Particularly, the Catholic Church was selling the indulgences. Even though you are a sinner, the way we go to the heaven and our sin is forgiven is we have faith in Jesus, right? But at that time, the Catholic Church, they were selling indulgence to people. Indulgence means you pay for buying indulgence, which means your sin is forgiven, then you go to heaven. No matter what you believe or not, you have faith in Jesus or not. Just buying indulgence, that means you go to heaven. Also, your sin is forgiven. So the Martin Luther has this illusion mind what the Catholic Church was doing at that time. So he wrote 95 theses in 1517. Actually, that document was criticizing the church's corruption. And then he insists to make the church reformation. Martin Luther argued that the salvations coming through the faith and then Jesus, not through our good work or indulgence. Only salvation, the only way we get salvation is we have faith in Jesus. That's the only way. But the Catholic Church was giving the messages, false messages to people by their work, by their good work or indulgences. That's why Martin Luther argued reformation of the church. So Martin Luther's idea was a foundation of a Protestant Reformation. From that time, his influence was significant. Today's Christianity and Western civilization. We just like to watch a brief video says how Martin Luther disillusioned about Catholic Church, and then he is 95. This is about Catholic Church, actually for Reformation, Protestant Reformation. Okay.
The Reformation of the 16th century shook the very foundation of Europe's cultural identity. The Reformation was a revolution of religion in Western Europe. Essentially, it was the result of centuries' worth of political and social grievances against the Christian church as it existed. Christianity, which began as a fledgling religion in the 1st century, had grown by the 13th century into an institution powerful enough to rival state governments. For instance, the Pope, then the leader of the Christian church, had greater political and military influence than some emperors and kings. This tension was exacerbated by the transformative social and intellectual period known as the Renaissance. In particular, this period involved the rise of humanism, a philosophy that shifted man's fate from being determined by religious doctrine to being determined by man himself. Additionally, some within the church believed it had become increasingly corrupt. Priests like John Wycliffe of England and Jan Hus of Bohemia challenged the church's teachings, which they believed had strayed away from the Bible. However, one of the most well-known advocates for a reformed Christian church was a German priest named Martin Luther. Martin Luther began to question the church in the early 1500s. He believed it was abusing its power and disagreed with some of its practices. For instance, he challenged the church's doctrine that stated the Pope, not the Bible, was the ultimate spiritual authority. Plus, he criticized the church for selling indulgences, the practice of purchasing forgiveness for one's sins by giving money to the church. Luther believed the church needed to revise its doctrine by returning to the Bible's teachings and by saying that salvation could be granted by faith in Christ alone. So on October 31st, 1517, Luther took a stand. In what's considered the birth of the Protestant Reformation, Luther is said to have nailed 95 theses, or arguments against the church, onto the door of Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany. Luther was later put on trial in front of church officials to defend his theses, but in January 1521, the church declared Luther a heretic and excommunicated him. While Luther's membership with the church ended, the Reformation he argued for started to gain momentum. Unlike Luther's predecessors who challenged the church, Luther had one tool at his disposal that they didn't have: the printing press. This new invention allowed his arguments to be copied and spread across Europe. This unprecedented access to ideas, such as Luther's, inspired many others to challenge the church, thereby splitting Christianity into two major denominations, Catholic and Protestant, from the word protest. Also, the Bible became more accessible. Luther and other reformists translated biblical text from Latin, which was only known by nobility and church officials, to German, English, and French, languages spoken by the general public. While the Protestant Reformation revolutionized the Christian faith, it had ramifications that extended beyond religion. Prior to the Reformation, many Europeans were dependent on an educated upper class. But perhaps the most resounding impact of the Reformation was that the common people were empowered to question religion and other aspects of life. The Reformation, along with technological innovations and the introduction of other new ideas, gave many in Europe's general public the freedom and power to decide their own fates.
All right, as you see, the Martin Luther, 1517, he posted 95 theses that is against will of Catholic Church. That time, Catholic Church was doing selling the indulgences. Indulgences means you buy the right that says your sin is forgiven because you pay the money to the church that is indulgent. So Martin Luther has this illusion of what the Catholic Church was doing at that time. So he posted 95 theses. That was also the Protestants Reformation was influenced by the revolution of the industrial. It's not it was influence of Renaissance, and then at that time there was the printing, the press was revolutionary changed. At that time, because many book was written by hand until the invention of printing press. So by the power of printing press, also the Protestant Reformation was possible. Because not only he made theses, 95 theses against Catholic Church, also Martin Luther, he wrote the Bible in many different languages. Then it is printed in different languages in Europe, like French, German, English. Before that, the Bible was only written in Latin language that was interpreted by only priests in Catholic Church. So that's why the Protestant Reformation was possible. And then the influence of the Protestant Reformation was still doing something in our Christian and modern civilizations nowadays. Also, when we look at personal figures who influenced very much in evangelism and development of Christianity, who is John Wesley. He is Anglican clergy. Actually, Anglican means England. That was originated in England. Also, that the Anglican was based on the Christian. Okay. In Korean, Anglican 성공회. Then also he is a theologian. With his brother, he founded the Methodist Church movement in 18th centuries. He has emphasis on personal devotions. Also, he has emphasis on importance of the social justice, and then doctrine of salvation that is possible only by the faith. Also, John Wesley, he traveled many different areas, and he was preaching and made organizations of small group meeting that is known as class meeting. He has contributed to the spread of evangelical Christianity. Actually, he has big influence to England and America. Okay, let's watch just a short video about John Wesley.
May now be well loved as the father of the Methodist Church, but he wasn't always famous nor successful. In 1735, when he was 32 years old, he set sail from England across the Atlantic, where as an Anglican minister, he was going to pastor the British people who had colonized Savannah, Georgia. There was a sudden great storm at sea, and he was gripped with fear. To his amazement, the German Moravians on board the same ship were not. They were calm and sang hymns of praise. "We are neither afraid for ourselves nor for our children," they said. Wesley could hardly bear to reckon with himself in the face of such faith. Over time, and in many ways, however, he had to search his heart and reflect on his life. He had been brought up in a Christian family. His dad, Samuel, was an Anglican priest. His mom, Susanna, conducted rigorous religious training at home for her children. There was no escaping Greek and Latin proficiency, and John and his siblings were expected to memorize chunks of the New Testament, and they even learned Greek and Hebrew to read the Bible in the original language. There was arguably even a miracle in his early years. As a 6-year-old, John was trapped by a raging fire that eventually destroyed his home. Rescued from a second-story window by a man standing on another man's shoulders, he was a brand plucked from the burning, as he would later say. His mother deemed this a sign from God that there was a special purpose for his life. Wesley went through university at Oxford as a young adult. When he returned later to tutor, he was invited to join as spiritual director, the holy club started by his brother Charles. It was so called because the members vowed to lead holy lives. They studied the Bible and prayed daily, took communion, and visited prisons regularly. They were labeled Methodists for their methodical ways. In spite of these spiritual disciplines and being an ordained minister, Wesley seemed to always be mired in struggle. He lacked the inner faith he yearned for, and he knew it. "I was indeed fighting continually, but not conquering. I fell and rose and fell again," he wrote. On 24 May 1738, something significant happened. In the evening, I went very unwillingly to a society in Aldersgate Street, where one was reading Luther's preface to the Epistle to the Romans. About 9:15, while he was describing the change which God works in the heart through faith in Christ, I felt my heart strangely warmed. I felt I did trust in Christ. Christ alone for salvation, and an assurance was given me that he had taken away my sins, even mine, and saved me from the law of sin and death. By the providence of God, George Whitefield, an Oxford Holy Club friend, was preaching in Bristol around this time. Poor working people, especially coal miners, were coming to Christ in droves. Whitefield needed help to attend to their needs. Wesley was unsure about Whitefield's practice of preaching outdoors, but decided to lend a hand. He soon became the new leader of this growing movement. They were to be, in his words, a company of men having the form and seeking the power of godliness, united in order to pray together, to receive the word of exhortation, and to watch over one another in love, that they may help each other to work out their salvation. At first, his followers met in private home societies. As these grew, Wesley started classes of 11 members with one leader, meeting weekly. They started schools for poor children, orphanages, and clinics. Everywhere they could, in whatever way they were able, they strived to do good. Outsiders bullied them and hurled abuse. Wesley even received threats on his life. Nonetheless, he preached unrelentingly, convinced that the world is my parish. He rode on horseback and traveled far and wide, more than 4,000 miles every year. He never shied away from preaching in any place where people could gather, and once even used his father's tombstone as a platform. In total, he is said to have preached 40,000 sermons by the time he died at age 87. Thus, in the midst of clear and present revival, was the Methodist Church born. It eventually transformed the English-speaking countries of the world. Some historians believe it may have saved England from untold civil unrest, such as was seen in France at the time. By the end of his life, he was greatly loved and appreciated. His exhortation to Christians to always press on toward entire sanctification still rings true. He wrote, "I always observe, wherever a work of sanctification breaks out, the whole work of God prospers." May it be so even in our time, and may we be encouraged by Wesley's life and faithful service to also follow Jesus with all our hearts, no matter how difficult the road.
Okay, that was brief explanation of John Wesley. Also, we're gonna look another person who is influenced very much in Christianity evangelism. That is George Whitefield. Also, he is English Anglican clergy. Also, he is one of the leaders of Great Awakening. 대각성. Also, he is revivalist movement, 회복, something like that. That swept Britain and American colonies in 18th centuries. He is known for his powerful, impassioned preaching style. Okay? He attracted many crowds wherever he goes. Also, he traveled many different areas, also Britain, England, and North America. He preached gospels and calling people to repentance and then have faith in Christ. So let's just watch this. Okay, George Whitefield, brief video about his.
Before the Revolutionary War began, there was even talk of independence, another revolution dominated America. The first
Great Awakening coming
coming
from
religious revivals
repentance.
throughout the Western world. Among the most influential people in this movement was the Reverend George Whitefield. George Whitefield was born in Gloucester, England, on December 27th, 1714. At a young age, he became interested in acting and theater, especially reenacting Bible stories. Sadly, his father's inn was not doing so well financially, so he was only able to get into Oxford as the lowest class of students, servitors, in which he received free tuition in exchange for working for the school. He only gained an interest in religion after becoming severely sick in college. He joined the Holy Club alongside the Wesley brothers and other soon-to-be famous Great Awakening preachers. Whitefield left for the British colony of Georgia in 1738, just a few years after his ordination. In Georgia, he decided his life's work would be to construct an orphanage for the colony. Before he left, he presented a few sermons to large congregations and was met with very positive response. When he got back to England to raise funds for an orphanage, he gave his first open-air sermon. When he returned back to the colonies to begin the construction of the orphanage, he began preaching to massive crowds outdoors. As the crowds grew, he began to develop a unique style of preaching that focused more on emotional response than preaching had in the past. His practices of reaching out to those who usually did not attend church led him to become one of the first ever celebrities in the Americas. Whitefield took advantage of the rising popularity of print and used pamphlets and other printed papers to announce his sermons. It was once remarked by Benjamin Franklin, his good friend, that his sermons were so persuasive that a man once went to his sermon, leaving money at home, as he was determined not to give anything at all, but turned and asked his friend for money to give after hearing the sermon. George Whitefield was rather conflicted with his views on race and slavery. He preached to blacks and whites alike, and is sometimes considered the father of African American Christianity. Despite this, he thought of black slaves as humans, but subordinate nonetheless. He was a very strong defender of the practice of slavery, but also an advocate for the humane treatment of slaves. While he was nowhere near as opposed to slavery as other Great Awakening preachers like the Wesleys, his approach was much more tolerable to his contemporaries. Whitefield subscribed to predestination, but was a vocal opponent of Arminianism, unlike most Great Awakening preachers. Whitefield continued preaching to large crowds until his death in 1770. On September 29th, he gave his final sermon to a crowd while standing on a barrel, despite his poor health. By the next morning, he had passed away. George Whitefield's role in the Great Awakening was undeniably vital in creating a unified American identity. Religion was such an integral part in the lives of colonial Americans, so a massive movement spreading revolutionary new ideas helped unite them with common identity. His sermons reached countless people across the colonies and in England. Regardless of your own views on religion, it was an integral part of an early American society, so such a massive religious movement had consequences beyond spirituality. His involvement in the creation of a cohesive American culture helped the country to survive in the early days after the Revolution. Don't forget that since my channel's first anniversary is coming up, I am hosting a Q&A, so
Also, George Whitefield, he influenced American Christian history, actually 18th centuries. The most significant was Great Awakening. From his starting of Great Awakening, also, largely influenced in actually in Korean Christian too. That was done by many missionaries who was coming from America to Korea. That time, many people know that the Pyongyang Great Awakening, Pyongyang Daegeoseul. Also, that is influenced by originally by George Whitefield and John Wesley. Okay. Lastly, we're gonna look the most famous evangelist. That's Billy Graham. Actually, I think last year, Chicago, I went there. One church he was ministry. Okay, little bit of an explanation. Graham was American evangelist, became most prominent, important, famous minister in 20th centuries. He did many things, radio broadcasting, television programs. He reached millions of people around the world with his gospel messages. He is known for his straightforward preaching style. Also, he committed to biblical orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is, straight, keep the doctrine straight. Okay, not he is not allowing any variations of interpretation for the Bible. Okay. Also, Graham influenced many people around the world. He is mostly respected person, evangelist, actually both religious field as well as secular spheres, secular words. Not only in religious society, he was respected other than religious society too. Okay, see some video. Okay. Okay. We just look at the evangelism by a historical point of view. Okay? We look at the Jesus and his disciples, apostles, and we look at a little bit of Paul, his missionary journey, finally to the Rome, and then we also look at some important figures like Martin Luther, John Wesley, George Whitefield, and Billy Graham. So we studied how they were doing things for spreading the gospels. Now we're gonna look at the evangelism in different way. Okay, not like historical point of view. Okay, in this slide from now we're gonna look at the how the gospel was spread out to the people in different ways. Okay, that is contextual relevance. Actually, if I translate, that is 상황적 관계. Okay. So it is basically simple. Okay, contextual relevance means always we have to consider the difference of culture, difference of the situations in different region people have. So contextual relevance means that is starting with knowing, acknowledging the needs of individuals and communities. Okay. We have to look what people need, what people demand. Also, based on people's demand, we are offering the help like food, shelters, healthcare, educations to the people. By doing this, we spread the message of Bible. Also, actually, we have to engaging in the environmental, the circumstances, the surroundings, to assist people they can build trust, love mind with people. That is actually based on the message of gospel. So when we talk about the contextual relevance, we're gonna look at cultural sensitivity. Okay, there's a language barriers, also language communications between different cultures. Also, there are many, the issues, actually personal issues and social issues we have to deal with. We're gonna look the needs of people, the common needs like health, basic living conditions. And then also cultural engagement, we're gonna look how we can do it. Then eventually building a relationship is the most significant goal, I can say. By building the good relationship as you are Christian with anyone, that has chance. There is chance that allows the people, you can change their faith into Christianity. All right, I think this part is very similar, like personal communication, intercultural studies, public speaking, also the psychological counseling. Okay, first, contextual relevance. When we talk about, we have to have, eventually when we spread out the messages of Bible, the gospel, not only we are deliver our messages to same people, right? But there are many evangelists or missionaries in different world, in different culture. So we have to know the difference of cultures. That is cultural sensitivity. That means you navigate what the difference is, you understand their culture, then you communicate. Actually, you engage in their culture. Okay, let's say Korean style or Korean culture of having food at the table manner. We have our own culture, right? But it is different from Japanese, Chinese, Africans. You cannot keep your Korean dining culture. When you are in Japan, you have to do what Japanese people do. That is, kind of cultural engagement. So every culture has their own values. Okay. Different belief, different traditions. We have to know that. So sensitivity means you navigate, you like to find out what the difference is. And then also you have to have mind. You want to practice their culture. That's engagement. More for cultural sensitivity, actually you can learn their customs, traditions, and their languages too. That means it helps that you spread out the gospel message of the Bible in different region, in different culture. That is cultural sensitivity. And also language communications. That is essential. Employ language and the resonate. Resonate means communicate. Resonate means I resonate. You means you and me communicate, not only verbally. Like resonate. That is used in another. You guys know the MRI? MRI? When MRI machine, right? We take picture, right? Medical. R means resonate. Resonate. That means communicate. You, me, have same frequency. So we can communicate. That's a resonate. So to do this, we have to learn the languages. Yeah. And then understand people have many different, stories too, right? So you understand their stories and the metaphors, symbols, the signals, hand signals, gestures, all those things included. So you have to align cultural context. Cultural context. Cultural context means 상황화, 문화적 상황화. That means you have to be in the situation, the people living in that culture. That is cultural context. So, cultural communication to do this better. We have to learn the languages. We have to understand more about how they describe things in different way. That is language and communications. And also when we do effective evangelism, we cannot ignore the issues people have. Some people have challenges of poverty, right? Injustice, violence. We cannot ignore them. There are many issues coming from those topics, right? So we try to understand the situation they have, and then morally, we like to help the situation people have, also resolve the issues people have. So here, second paragraph, there is biblical lens. That means like Christian worldview. Okay, you look through the window. Window has Christian view, point of view. Yeah. That means we try to give people hope, love, healings. Yeah. All those message is related to gospel in the Bible. So we actually participate in social justice, like protesting, I want justice, something like that. Yeah. Also, the humanitarian assistance, we donate, food, money to some underdeveloped countries like in Africa, or some people in the situation of refugee, right? Arab refugees. Yeah. So we cannot turn our back to those people. Also, actually, we have social issues too, but many people have individual needs, individual demands too. I want education. I want food. I want clothes. That's individual needs. So also we have to acknowledge, we have to understand needs of individual. So like we give shelters, foods, healthcare, educations, those things included. Also emotional, spiritual comfort we can give to the people. Okay, here last third paragraph. Okay, we do things good to the people. What that means is we are building connection, relationship with people. Once we build strong, healthy relationship with built, that means I can talk my personal stories to anyone, right? Once we have good, strong, healthy relations. That means also you can say, you can exchange your worldviews. So I have Christian worldview. So what do you think? That the guy said, no, I have Islamic worldview. Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Once we have relationship, we can talk about that. So, that means we have to build trust, credential that is based on strong, healthy relationship. Once we build a relationship, you can talk about more things coming from deep inside your mind, including religious opinions too. Same, cultural engagement, same as I tell you slide before. So engaging popular culture, contemporary issue can also provide opportunity to connect with people, communicate, and gospel message in relevant way. Okay, gospel. You deliver gospels to the people in relevant. What is relevant? It is contemporary cultures. Okay, let's say, so many people know about K culture, right? Many people know K-pop stars. I know some of them, Blackpink, IVE, New Jeans. If you don't know that, it is hard for you to communicate people who live in contemporary world, right? So you have to know that too. So finally, building relationships. Authentic relationship means strong, healthy relationship that is based on trust and then respect for each other. And then also understand. I don't hate your religion, okay? I respect, I understand the situation you have. That is the most essential to build relationship. Eventually, once we build, it is little easier for us to deliver gospel. People who have different culture, different religion. So that means you have to put your effort to build relationship. You need time. You spend more time with people. You have to listen their stories, not only talking your stories, okay? Okay, last, one more, emphasis. By building relationships, Christian can create opportunity to share my story, my faith, my religion. So we just briefly looked the evangelism in contextual relevance, cultural sensitivity. Finally, we have to do something for building relationship, right? The good relationship that is making us to deliver the gospel just a little easier. We can have little more chance, more opportunity to deliver messages. That is contextual relevance. Now we want to look the personal evangelism in different way. The modern challenges. Okay. So now people living in the society, we are all connected by technologies. We have many, complicated relationship with others. So there might be challenges about delivering, spreading out the Gospels. So we're gonna briefly look at what those things are. Okay, modern challenge means also we have to look at also a cultural, social, technological factors. That means we navigate the different cultures. We understand also in any society they have different social issues, right? So we have to study those things too. Also, now the technique, actually, social medias, AIs, we are all influenced by those high tech technologies. That is our society now. So we have to know or study our societies. Yeah. So once you know what challenges, then you can make strategies to deliver the messages, and then also you can give good influence and impacts to people and communities in today's world. So the modern challenges, we're gonna look what the engagement with digital cultures. Also, we wanna see pluralism and then secularism. That is very complicated. They controversial issues, pluralism and secularism. Anyway, we're gonna briefly take a look at those things. And then there are many different social justice issues, poverty, inequalities, something like that, right? And then also, the relationship connections, and then equipping, how we equipping people with faith for evangelism. We're going to look at it. And then also embraces, the cultural diversities. We're going to talk about that too. Okay, modern challenges for personal evangelism. Nowadays, all people are engaged with digital cultures, right? Nobody can deny this one. Like I say, I think I said before, once my son got home, sometimes, he eats dinner briefly because he likes to have more time to play online game. Yeah, so in today's digital age, people spend significant amount of time online. We can do almost everything, right? Online. You can build community, you can practice your professionals, you can do kind of hobbies. You can make a relationship with people. Also, you can make relationship with AI. Yeah. So that is also, there are many different platforms, right? social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, Instagrams, and then in other platforms like AI-based platforms, right? ChatGPT and what is it? And Sora. Actual, that is, we give the text, scripture, and then AI makes the movie for you. That is, yeah. Also, have you guys heard of Maisha? Have you guys heard of Maisha? That is a kind. Yeah. AI-based program, community. Yeah. So there are many different, platforms in online. So we cannot disregard those things to have better, opportunity to spread out the gospels. We have to be, in some part, professional about dealing with those techniques. So that means leveraging social media, website, podcasting, online broadcastings, streaming service. We cannot disregard those things. We have to have a skill of good using those techniques. So, yeah, that is our modern challenge. If you don't know anything about those things, that is really shame. Okay, let's see. Okay, in Roman Empire, the example, Paul had 4 missionary journeys, right? First, second, third, fourth journeys. Through this journey, he delivered many gospels to different culture, different ethnic groups, right? It is the kind of a successful, the delivering message of gospel was possible because of what? Roman Empire. Roman Empire, they built many good roads to conquer different countries. They built empire, right? It is based on the road, streets. Through those things, Paul can travel many different areas and deliver the gospel. Nowadays, what is now? The internet. Through the internet, online, we can deliver the gospels. So we have to know that about modern technology. Okay. Yeah, you guys have heard of pluralism and secularism. That is actual the aspect of postmodern society. words in Korean. Postmodern character is relativism, 상대주의. And then 다원주의. Everybody is right. You right, you right, you right, me right. That's the character of postmodern society. And then in good words, that's pluralism. And then secularism. Okay? So modern society is characterized actually religious pluralism. I don't say that is bad or good, okay? I just like to deliver the definition, okay? Religious pluralism means you believe any religion, you can find the way you get salvation. Not only Jesus, not only, Catholic, not only Islamic, not only in any religion you practice, you get salvation. That is religious pluralism. Okay, secularism is simple. Religion is separated from public. Okay, in the United States, in public school, you cannot teach certain religion, right? Okay, in political government organization, you cannot practice certain religion. That is secularism. But it is not simple, okay? Practicing pluralism, secularism is very complicated. I'm gonna show you video a little bit, okay? So, also skepticism is like, always you have to have question, why? That is, simple explanation of a skepticism, okay? 1 plus 1 is 2, why? Just for fun, okay? Simple math. So, A plus B is 2. But 2 is 1 is 1. Okay, I'll talk about this next time. Okay. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So we cannot ignore. We cannot turn around those things. We have to know that what pluralism. People who live in those perspectives, we have to learn. We have to have, the skills, techniques, how we can deal with those people. That is making kind of bridges. But there are always common values. Even though we have different worldview, different religion, different culture, but there might be something in common. We have to find it. Yes. Mostly, love, caring, trust, those some kind of common things. Okay, I wanna see. religious pluralism. I'll show you the video, short video.
Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. Apologetics seeks to give credible answers to curious questions, to give a defense. What is religious pluralism? Religious pluralism is the belief that no one system owns absolute truth. Religious pluralists reject the idea of Jesus' statement where he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. A religious pluralist is okay with Jesus being a way, but not the way. The definite article, though, makes all the difference in the world. Jesus didn't come into the world to die on a cross for sinners.
We, as Christians, Jesus is the way, but religious pluralism, Jesus is a way, one of the way. That's what it says.
Because he believed that he was the best way, or a way. Nor did the disciples die martyrs' deaths because they believed that Jesus was the best way, or a way. No, Jesus believed he was the way, and the disciples believed he was the way. The question is, do you believe that Jesus is the way? Religious pluralism today is all over the place, and it's even made its way in to the church.
Yes.
Sadly, we hear statements like this: it doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you are sincere. But yet the Bible tells us in the book of Hebrews that the God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We need to remember that. In the Old Testament, God rejected religious pluralism in the same way he does today. In fact, the ancient Israelites went into Babylonian and Assyrian captivity. Why? Because they became religious pluralists. They started worshiping the Canaanite gods of Baal, Moloch, and Ashtoreth. And as a result, they went into captivity as a form of punishment. We need to realize that God will hold us accountable in the church when we adopt forms of religious pluralism. Jesus couldn't have been more clear in John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Yes. Yeah, we Christians says Jesus is the way, only way. But the explanation is what is cultural pluralism. A way, many way. Best way, worst way. That means cultural religious pluralism. The way is the only way that Christians say. Yeah. And then also another video, secularism. Okay, it should be it. It's not playing. See it in here.
I'm sometimes asked what I mean when I refer to myself as a secularist. The term secular has different meanings, but when I describe my own position as secular, I'm referring to a view encompassing two broad principles. Firstly, the separation of religion from state leaves religious people free to practice their religion, provided they don't infringe the freedoms of others, and allows I'm sometimes asked what I mean when I refer to myself as a secularist, of religion through law, education, government, employment, or health. This promotes freedom of religion and from religion. Secondly, the principle of equality before the law seeks to remove all privilege or penalty for having or lacking religious faith, to ensure that no belief, religious or otherwise, receives special protection from criticism, and that inequalities which some support within their religion won't be supported outside it. Obviously, under this principle, blasphemy and apostasy are non-punishable. When properly understood, secularism creates an environment of equality that benefits us all, which is why it's supported by theists and atheists, religious and non-religious people alike. This is not a Christian nation. It's not even a religious nation. It's a nation of many faiths and none. And even within faith groups, there can be fundamental differences of opinion.
Yeah, it says, it's not only nation of religious or secular. In secularism, it is a nation from many different faiths, many different beliefs. Yeah, that's what the secularism says.
Faith groups, there can be fundamental differences of opinion on important issues. Establishing secular boundaries that prevent any single religion imposing its values on everyone else is as much a protection for the religious as it is for the non-religious. Boundaries naturally upset those whose nature is to impose, and people who've got used to privilege don't like it being removed. Their complaints are to be taken for granted. When Said Avasi told the Vatican that aggressive secularism is being imposed by stealth, likening it to totalitarianism and saying secularism denied people the right to religious identity, this was shameless misrepresentation. Secularism denies no one religious identity. It defends that freedom, but not the freedom to impose that identity on others. What secularism says is that having a religious identity does not justify special tax exemption, especially for the already rich, preaching religion in state schools, inserting narrow religious values into common law, having unelected religious leaders as legislators, or demanding council prayers. Redressing these unjust and inappropriate privileges is not totalitarian, nor is it an attack on faith. It's a recognition of the freedom of all people to live without divisive inequalities. Secular principles, supported by theists and atheists alike, encourage fairness and mutual consideration.
Yeah, that's what the secularism does for all the people who have different beliefs, different values, and different situations. Okay, now I can play this one. Okay. Now we're gonna look at the skepticism. Okay, that is also short video. Okay, before I play that book, okay, the school says we have to buy this book, because it helps that you study this subject. Also, when you maybe in the future later you need to have an interview for immigration. They ask. I know this word in other college. Okay, I prepare the document I-20 F1 documents. Then I prepare syllabuses for one of our students for interview. So I know that they ask, the lawyer ask, when you want to have interview with immigration, they ask, okay, let's see your book, let's see how you studied when you're in school. Okay, they want to see the syllabus too. Yeah, so I encourage you to buy this book, okay?
Skepticism. It sounds a lot like cynicism, but don't get the two confused. Skepticism is not about blindly doubting the validity of everything. Rather, skeptics approach extraordinary claims with an open mind, but only accept the ones that...
Okay, when we talk about skepticism, don't have a negative, mind about skepticism, okay?
Rigorous scientific scrutiny. Imagine someone tells you that they have magic healing crystals. How do you react? Do you believe them? Or do you ask questions? Where did you get these? What do they cure? How do they work? Skepticism is about being curious but careful. As individuals, we are not always good at determining what works. We cherry-pick evidence to support what we already believe. We trick ourselves into thinking something is real. We find meaning in the meaningless. Only through controlled scientific testing can we gather reliable evidence to separate fact from fiction. Without science, All we have is gut feeling and subjective personal experience. Alternative medicine is probably the most common pseudoscience. These are treatments that are unproven at best and potentially harmful at worst. While alternative medicine is perhaps the most dangerous form of quackery, it's only the tip of the iceberg. The realm of unfounded belief is as vast as the human imagination, ranging from astrology to claims of psychic powers to ufology and cryptozoology. We need the defense of skepticism in order to not be fooled. However,
here, okay, this okay, here, okay, you are a religious person. At the same time, you can have scientific, logical, rational mind, right? Yeah. The skepticism is talking about scientific, logical, rational mind, okay? Even though you are religious, I don't believe in myth, right? That's what it is. Yeah. Computer is okay. I think we have to and this now. Okay. So, any question? Anything you wanna say? Anything you don't like? Let me know.